Well, but that's why last year it was 49,000 and this year it's 55,000.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's somehow gotten bigger.
Would that because the mill rates changed or
Yes.
assessments?
Oh, the assessment,
Yeah,
yeah.
but last year's
Based
assessment.
on an estimated mill rate.
So exact math. Got it. Okay,
If we change the mill rate after to something other than she was anticipating, it actually will be a bit different. There are
Yeah, we're good.
multiple elderly reduction programs, but most of them change the assessment number. That's right.
They lower like your assessment by 10,000. Some of my parents did this in Southington, like that, yeah, exactly, yeah, for veterans.
And we do have a local one, which he's not talked about how that happened, but we do have a local one because similar thing.
Okay. So that sounds like that's something that's outside of our kind of real control in math. The grand list, obviously, like I said, Sean unfortunately couldn't be here tonight, but you will see on the top of her memo, it does match the figure that I did provide everybody, 1.913. She's got 4 zeros on here, which I would really, really like. But I gotta imagine one of those is a typo. So,
Oh, yeah, her number's like 1,913,000 and 4 zeros. So it sounds like, either way, we know what the number is. We know what she's trying to say.
more zeros.
More zeros, exactly.
Okay, either way, there's something off. Any discussion or question there about the grand list or the elderly program?
So Shauna thinks, I guess, using 1,913,000,000 versus 1,917,000,000, and then she writes up, so she thinks we ought to kind of lower that 1,917,500,000 by whatever, 4.5 million because of these pending court cases and the like. Is that kind of her rationale? I was sort of talking to myself, sorry, but is that sort of what's going on? Okay.
Yeah,
Any other
I mean,
questions?
the math.
Good.
Well, I mean, Shauna's first bullet says, I would recommend discounting the net grand list by 7 million. So,
And that was the 1.92 that we originally,
Well,
right?
that doesn't add up.
Well, but I think it's -7 and plus 2.5 at the bottom.
oh,
Okay.
okay. Okay. Oh, on the positive side,
Yeah.
okay, Steve, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, the 1.92 was the,
Yeah.
yeah, and then all
Okay.
the math. Discussion. All right, seeing none, all those in favor of confirming those figures, signify by raising your hand. Opposed? That was, Mr. Maylor, you were good? That was a yes, okay. All right, so that motion passes. Can I have, what's wrong?
Oh, I didn't know. The item just says update on the grand list, I didn't know we had an action, related to that.
I just,
Oh,
yeah, I made it, yeah, motion, so it's fine, I mean, we gotta use those numbers, so.
good.
All right, can I have a motion for a discussion and a decision on approving the projected revenue other than taxation?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by the vice chair, seconded by Mr. DeProto. Okay, so if we go up, Mr. Mealy will come over and go from the top down, but we're gonna start with the tax other than the current year figure at 775,500. Are you good?
So far.
Okay.
Like I said, as long as I know where we
Yeah,
are.
yeah, and then it's really, I think we just go from there straight on down to the miscellaneous. So it should be the town clerk at 300, the assessor at 500, and Sharon, I know I'm going through these, so if I read something that you don't match with, let me know.
Yeah, I'm in the spreadsheet that was in your budget book,
Public Works, 48,000. Building Inspection, 365,000. Police Department, 179, 186. Health Department, 25,500. Senior Services, 550. Library, 1,000. Boards and Commissions, 8,000. State of Connecticut, let's pray this comes in, $6,550,031. And then miscellaneous income of $1,605,764. Do we match? We're good? Okay. Are there any other categories that I missed that need to go into this motion? That's the whole.
Do you have a total?
I can certainly sum it up here. All of that totals $9,859,031. Beautiful. Discussion.
Last two are different from, substantially different from where we were last year. State of Connecticut, are we basing that on
The sheet that I received from CCM,
when?
I just got an updated one this week and my numbers didn't change.
Okay,
It's in, the sheet is also in your budget books?
in our budget books.
Yes, in the revenue section?
Yeah, these numbers should all be on the revenue tab of the books
Okay.
that
Yeah,
we
but
get
things
from the
have
town.
been going on, and I'm wondering if we have had any updates.
You talking from the state level?
Yeah,
I see.
well, this is the state of Connecticut number, that's what
Yes,
I'm
yes,
asking.
yes. Yep.
Yeah, it looks
So-
like the ECS went up 500,000.
Now, there was a number, and this may not, this is probably, in fact, not the place to bring this up, but in case, so I don't forget it. The state appropriated or somehow sent out $40 million for special ed, or related to special ed. I don't know whether that's going to the Board of Education or coming to us.
We didn't get anything yet.
You didn't get any, well, you didn't get any money yet, yeah, but did you get you have no sense of where it's going or coming from?
Just the notice that I got from the state, the same one that you said, $40 million, all I got was.
And did it have a breakdown?
No, there was no sheet attached.
They didn't give us a breakdown either.
Okay. And CCM didn't either?
No,
No.
Okay. So that is intended to be this fiscal year, right?
yes.
Yes.
Okay. So, does it see, I have spent zero time, working on this, so is that, are we expecting a portion of that? No one knows, no one thought to ask, no one cares, where are we?
Right now, they've told us they're behind in a number of areas.
Right.
And,
Is there a formula, is there,
no,
and CCM has no opinion?
CCM has not given us any direction in that.
Have we asked?
I didn't ask you.
No, I did not.
Okay. So, I mean, there's some number, some additional amount of income coming in this year. Maybe it's $1, maybe no, it's not $1 million, but it's some number coming in. We just don't know. That's a question.
Yeah, the state didn't provide a breakdown.
Okay, so we have additional income coming in this year. We don't know.
What is, this was tied to the 40 that came?
There was a $40 million
Yeah.
additional outlay related to special education costs. I couldn't off the top of my head tell you what the formula was or how it's being sent out. I thought someone in the town would have paid attention to it.
Well, when we had our hearing and deliberation with the Board of Ed, they had talked about a fluctuation in their percentage of what they believed they were getting from the state, and they budgeted one way, they thought it was gonna drop, and then I was under the impression that at least a part of this was to get them back to what they thought should have been when they originally did their budgeted number, because they had originally thought it went from like 72% down to 65, and now with this coming, it's supposed to, I believe that there was something that this helps actually get them back to what they originally were looking at from a budget standpoint. Don't hold me to that, but I believe it was tied somehow to, does that ring a bell? Is that, yeah?
That theory is certainly probably correct as to why it was done.
Yeah.
That's a different question as to how much is.
Yeah, no, I know. In trying to determine extra versus what's in there, I don't know if,
Well, but if the reason that they might have, the percentages might have changed would be that, not that they got less, it's because they spent more. So the percentage would go down of the reimbursement because if the reimbursement stays the same and they went up, the percentage would go down, obviously. So the idea on the state level was, oh, let's give them a little more to bring the percentage in. I don't think anything we did relative to the Board of Education budget was affected by that.
Sure. And this, and when you mentioned the Board of Education number, you're talking the next fiscal year or the current one?
No, this is this year.
Right, that's right, okay, yeah, we're on the same page, okay. Yeah, so
You know, it's not like I think, oh, they knew it was coming, so they're going to plan to roll it over to next year, so, no, nothing's anything like that. And like I said, I'm not entirely sure whether it goes directly to the Board of Ed or it comes to us. Do you know that?
No,
It was really vague.
if I remember correctly, I think it said more information to follow.
with, I know this is a very broad question, but like, has anything that you can recall that happened in the past where the state has provided additional funding where money would have gone directly to the Board of Ed instead of through our channel? Like, would we know that? Like, is that common, that could happen? Or are we typically always kind of the arbiter and,
It usually goes through our bank account and we have to put it in a special grant fund.
yeah, okay.
Normally it comes to the town,
Yeah.
town.
To the town, yeah.
Except.
And again, I'm not saying this is the case, I'm just
Right.
saying,
No, and that normally is the case, but as we found out this year, that's not always the case. Which is something we need to come back to at some point,
but, so for the next fiscal year, the 6.5, the 6,550,000, based on the information we have as of now, that is our best number, that's our best estimate.
Those are the numbers they've given us so far.
I don't know, last I heard from, at the RTC meeting last night, someone had mentioned that the state did fully fund the education cost sharing for the towns as, I guess, originally contemplated, in the numbers here,
For
so.
the current year or
For the FY '26.
for the next year?
the budget
Yeah.
that came out of the appropriations committee did. It's still got a few steps to go.
But that doesn't include the 40 million, that's like on top of
The
thing.
40 million's already.
Yeah, that's a,
Yeah, that's what I'm.
You think it's this year versus into the FY '26? I thought that was in
No,
FY
the
'20.
40 million is for fiscal year 25.
yes, that's for the current year. Because, from my understanding, there was just, all towns were just saying they needed.
Strapped in,
Yeah,
yep.
they hit January or whatever and just said, we're not gonna,
Yep, can't do it.
you know.
But
So-
I have no idea, how it's, no idea. How it's,
Just to make sure,
My point is simply, we may have had more income this year, which probably, but may possibly go over into next year. Probably not.
just in trying to make sure I'm getting everyone in, I just wanna go around the horn real quick, additional
Well,
questions?
I did have the second part of that, which was the other, the miscellaneous, that's also much larger than last year. Which-
So when we go out to bond,
Yep.
and I put the bond, proceeds in the bank account, I'm gonna put the interest in the school account to use the money to pay bills instead of use it as revenue, because, so I'm gonna use it as part of the town's piece. So I'm gonna move that investment
And that's being recognized in the miscellaneous income category?
No, it isn't, it's not
Okay.
the general fund.
Well, I think Mr. Mailer's question is, we're jumping, hold on, we're jumping from 1.374, right, to 1.6, right? I believe the question is what represents that jump? I understand your discussion around the interest being used
Could- if
in
I
the
could-
general.
Sure. Sorry. Last year, I think we had $1 million in the investment income line, and this year, right now, in the budget book, it's
So
1.2
I'm
million.
removing the note
Right, but we're on a
interest,
different
that's
topic.
the difference.
That's all in miscellaneous income.
She just said it wasn't.
I'm moving the note interest that we were making this year,
Right.
I'm zeroing that out, because the note goes away in October.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm not following. Okay. We
The-
had miscellaneous income in fiscal '25, the year we're in,
Yep.
which we're anticipating to be 1,374, blah, blah, blah. Next year, in that line, we are anticipating 1,605,784. That is a $225,000 increase, which is,
What do you have for estimated for 25?
No, I think, just, can I just try?
Yeah.
So Ed, you're looking at what was budgeted, right? 1.3 million. That was last year's number, 1.3.
374.
That's the budget.
Thank you, John. 1.374, it's a budget number.
okay,
This year's budget number is 1,605, and what I was trying to say is, in last year's budget, our investment line, in our investments in miscellaneous income,
Right.
was 1 million. Right now in the budget book, it's 1.2 million. So that covers 200,000, and there's a couple of miscellaneous pieces, I guess another 25,000 somehow. But that's why the numbers look different from a budget standpoint.
and is that in this group? In this line item?
Which column are you talking about, the proposed?
Once again, yes. Well, I'm talking about both. I'm talking about the distinction between the two.
So, I'm proposing investment income,
I'm not on investment income, but is investment income a subcategory of miscellaneous?
yes.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm providing investment income of 1.2,
Okay,
but the interest on the note, I am not budgeting anything.
right.
Okay.
And what was the number from last year's, from the current year budget?
I budgeted 0 last year to also.
No, but is it somewhere else that?
It's in the budget book, yeah, yeah.
Revenue section?
Okay.
So all the pieces that make up that are in your budget book?
Yep.
All right.
It's like the third or fourth page in the budget book. Keep going, maybe one more. Should be right about there.
Revenue from various sources, miscellaneous, yeah.
You see the investment income at the top?
Yep.
Very top line, and then investment note. And you can see over the middle of the page, we
Oh,
budgeted
gotcha.
$1 million and then nothing for the note. And now it's, in the budget book, it's 1.2 million and 0 for the note. That's the 200,000 increase on a budget basis. That's not how we're tracking the actuals, are very different from the budget for this year,
Yeah.
but for a variety of reasons.
Okay. So let's look at this the other way. So our estimated for this year now, or 3 months ago, or whenever we did this, was 2,518, so dramatically above that. Is that, half of that looks like it came from investment income.
From the note, specifically.
From the note specifically, but again, only half of it. And where's the rest of that increase?
Could I just try, so if you look down.
Oh, here's 900,000.
That's what I'm saying, if you look
Okay.
1,605 to 2,5, it's roughly 900,000, it's basically
Right.
most of that number.
we're still anticipating,
and I assume this part is just the economy. We were anticipating around 720 in interest income, I'm sorry. That was 23, 24, okay. So we were anticipating 1 million, we actually expect to get more in the nature of 1.2 million this year in interest that is not related to the school note.
Correct.
And that, we think, will continue for another year.
I hope so.
Well, that's what we're asking, that's what we're anticipating.
I'm anticipating, I can't.
What,
I
that's
don't
what's
know.
on the page, I'm just
Right, I
saying,
don't know
that's
what
what's
we're
on the
gonna do with
page.
rates.
Of course. But I'm just trying to figure out how the page adds up, right? That's what we have on the page. Okay, gotcha.
And Ed, just so.
Yep,
so I
gotcha.
want us to be like surprised later on, so
Yeah,
as of February,
right.
that investment line has about 1.2 million in it already.
Oh, really?
So we're gonna
Okay.
overshoot, the 1 million budget probably by 400,000 or some other
Right.
number, right? Just so you
Okay,
know.
then, that leads to the question of, why do we think it'll be less next year?
Because I'm anticipating a rate drop.
Really?
Could I,
Yeah,
Ed, could
Our
I,
bank accounts have already dropped except for STEM.
Yeah,
I think if you look at the rate trend, like
Yeah.
from July of last year,
yeah,
like, it was probably, like, the stiff account would pay like around 5.4 last July.
yeah.
Now it's probably 4.2 or something like that. So I think it's just sort of a decline in the interest rate. And then who knows?
From the
what
high point, that's
Yeah,
true.
who knows what,
Okay. Okay.
Let me go around the horn here now. Dan?
I'm good.
Good. Steve? Matt?
Just, for the, it looks like it wasn't there last year either, for municipal revenue sharing fund, was that something that got wiped away with the,
We got it, so we budgeted 1 year, we got 0, then we budgeted 0 because we got hit pretty hard that year with what we budgeted. And we never know if we're gonna get that or not. I get an email saying you're getting it, or I get an email saying we're not giving the grant. And has not been consistent year to year.
yeah, this isn't, maybe convoluting this with the car tax, the whole car tax situation. This doesn't have anything to do with car tax reimbursements to the town or anything, like, okay. Okay, so there's a possibility, I mean, there still is a municipal revenue sharing program, but we've gotten blanked on it, and we're not gonna bank on it in the future, but
Correct.
it could happen.
could.
Okay. Alright, thanks.
so I'm sorry, Shan, maybe just explain again. So, when we take out the bond, whatever we're gonna do in October, and it's a little bit of, I'm sorry, it's a remedial to explain to me, like, we're gonna get $40 million, right, from that? And then that money will be sitting somewhere, and hopefully maybe have the opportunity to earn some interest, right? Some,
Yeah,
a lot
it's a
maybe.
separate bank account.
okay. And then, and that's probably, I'm just not connecting the dots, so it's in another bank account, it's generating interest. I know the 40 million we probably have to pay something out, right?
Right.
Somebody,
Yeah.
or maybe you would understand it better, I
Well,
don't know.
that's
It's just-
what I was, I thought the 40 million in bonds was to pay 40 million in notes.
Yeah, so I'm gonna pay the
It's
40
zero.
million off, but then I'm taking out a bond, which will go back in the bank.
Right. So we're
Bond
doing,
proceeds.
well, it won't go back in the bank, we've already spent it, right?
Right, so
No.
it's gonna be like, I don't know what I'm taking out to bond, I can't tell you.
Okay,
It's gonna be paid off.
We
Like a
will have,
wash, right?
we will have
Okay.
spent 40 million or so to build the school on notes. Then we will put out a bond for the purpose of paying the notes. So we will be zero to the good. When we,
Okay.
instead of having 40 million of various notes floating around, we will have one 40 million bond floating around. I believe, right?
Right.
Okay.
Well, whatever it is.
Well,
yes.
whatever the number is, but yes.
and so do we have,
We won't be sitting around, getting interest.
and then, do we have any even glimpse of an idea that if we go to market, could we either, get premium on the bond? What if we do, what if we end up getting like more money than we actually go to bond for? because the bonds go out at a premium, and we end up with 2 or 3 million more, which could happen. I mean, it does
My
certainly.
premium's never been high. but-
Okay, well, this is it's such a big number, though. Could it be, I know it's, you
I
know,
can't tell you until we go out to market.
We've never gone out in a depression before.
so I guess it's one thing, we can't do much about it, but in theory, potentially, if we get more money, then who knows? Either we get money in the fund balance, or who knows what, I don't, what would happen, let's just hypothetically say, and I'll let this go, let's say we do get 2 million more than we need. Would that money then just go into our general fund, or like, what
No,
happens to
we
it?
leave it in the school account to pay the bills. Because the town is still on the hook for our piece. So use that money to pay the bills that I gotta pay, because the state reimbursements lag with the expenditures. So the town is on the hook until I get reimbursed, and we're not getting 100% reimbursement.
And then simply, like, all those movements of operational paying those bills is not in any of this, right? Because it's not these expenses, it's a different, okay, okay.
But just to follow that up, so we're saying we're going to go out for 40 million, round number, 40 million in October. That's not the total cost of the school. The total cost of the school is
72.6.
72.6.
Appropriation.
Okay, right, so are we, I assume we are at some point going to bond for whatever, I know we've been paying pieces down over the course of the last few years, but not 30 million of it. So I assume at some point, the school's done, it's closed, it's closed as a building project, it's opened as a school, it's done. At that point, we're going to need to have bonded more than 40 million, right?
More than half,
Right.
yes.
So I assume there is yet another piece of bonding to come after this fall, right?
Not necessarily, hopefully we'll bond what we exactly, the intent is to bond
Fund
what
what
we
we
need.
need. We're gonna go, we're gonna start in the summer going over cash flows, what we've received from the state, what they still have to pay, what our reimbursement rate is.
From the state is, but the bottom line is there is a number of costs that we're not getting reimbursement for, or we're
Right.
getting less than.
Right.
I imagine we'll be bonding for a larger number than what our ultimate share will be after we get, say, 1 or 2 years past the project and the state audit is closed and we got all our reimbursements.
Now, excuse me for, we have changed the way we've done this, I don't know how many times in my career. So, let me make sure I understand the way the state reimburses. Is the state reimbursing us for expenses as we incur them? Or is the state reimbursing us for bond payments as they come due?
No, they're expenditures, we have to, the project manager files a report, and there's
Yeah.
certain dates that the state gave them,
Yeah,
that they have to file a report by, and they file a report of what we spent, for the pieces that was reimbursable, and they submit it to the state.
okay. So, just to make sure, 72 million and change for the total school. Our piece, 40 million, roughly?
Roughly,
I mean, I don't need the exact number, but,
bottom line, yeah,
something like that.
yep.
So that by October-ish, we are expecting to have gotten 32 million from the state in various tranches over the course of the last
Yeah.
2-3 years. And then we will go out and bond our own piece, whatever is left.
Correct.
Okay.
Kinda,
So it is,
it's just a little muddier because, yeah, every reimbursement they hold back, I think it's like, what, 5 or 10%? So if we say, oh, we spent 5, they'll say, we'll give you 90%, and then they hold back once they hit 85% of the total project cost, they say you gotta wait till the audit closes,
goes
but,
through,
but
yeah.
other than those things, which do matter, I mean, it could be
It-
millions of
it could be
dollars
millions of
held up.
dollars, obviously.
But yeah, that's,
But-
they've been paying us on a going basis,
Yeah.
almost the full amount.
We used to do it differently, and I thank God we're doing it this way because it saves the state so much money to do it this way, thank God. But to go back to Steve's question, that does put us in a position where one of two things is likely to happen. Either we will have some number, some small number, which could mean $1 million or $2, of things that we forgot about, that we didn't, that the state's not reimbursing us for, that we, Jesus, we forgot we needed, electrical lines to run out to this building or whatever. So there might be a little runovers that we need to pay for, in which case that's where the premium would go, I think. But then the question does come down to, okay, so we may use that cash. This is really a long-term question, so we really have to have the answer tonight. We may use that cash to pay bills that the state will eventually reimburse us for, but we haven't gotten the cash yet. But at some point, that will catch up. So it is possible that in the end, we may have a couple of $1 million left over
Yeah.
that,
It also
school's done.
depends on where they
Right.
end up.
It could,
If they don't spend 72.6.
right.
So
So,
they spend 70.
or if they spend 72.5, but we, because of a premium on the bonds, got 74.3, and the question I think he has is, what happens to that money if there's leftovers at the end?
If there's leftover money for us to keep,
Yeah, I mean, we've paid all the bills and we still have $500,000.
when I can close the fund, I pull it back into the general fund.
That's the answer. Okay,
Well,
thank you.
I'm sorry, wouldn't we just pay down the debt? I mean, if you borrow $300,000 for your house, it only costs you $290. I mean, you can take that 10 grand and you buy furniture with it, but wouldn't you just put it against the debt?
I think it depends, and.
Depends
tell me
on
if I'm wrong,
the terms of
whether,
the borrowing, yeah.
whether the debt allows for prepayment or not, or whether,
It's just how we structure it.
or if there's sometimes you have to pay a premium to allow for a repayment, and it's not worth paying the premium,
Yeah,
so that, it's just easier to just let it go and pocket the money and worry about it later, because you've already planned to make those payments. You're right, if you could, but
if you could, yeah.
your borrowers might want
Sure.
more from you on the front end to allow you to do that, and it's probably not enough money to make the difference.
And so,
But then we could use it to pay the bond's debt on the next fiscal year.
Well, if you
John
want,
coming
Whatever.
in June?
use it for whatever you want the next year, right?
and so to the point, I know at some point down the road, I don't know if it's 3 years out or so, it's at least 3 years, right? As long as we think it's either general fund or pay the debt versus it going into the school capital fund. Like, that doesn't happen, right? Okay, that won't happen, right? Okay.
Just to, yeah, maybe just to close up the conversation then, like,
What's that?
oh, just in light of this conversation, we talked about having John Healy come, before October, and knowing our calendar for our Board of Finance meetings, we typically don't meet in July or August. Would we be able to have him come in to our June meeting to kind of answer some questions
You won't
about?
have answers then? Because we're gonna work on it over the summer, what we're planning on doing?
Okay. Well, I mean, answers to questions about, like, what,
September would be
What-
a better option.
September?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. That's good, but yeah, we can have some questions about, what provisions there are in terms of prepayment of debt and things like that. I mean, even questions like you're saying, we'll get a premium. I mean, I don't understand if I wanna borrow and get 40 grand or 40 million and and I say, oh, for 40 million face, they're gonna pay me a premium, I'm just gonna scale down.
Questions aren't gonna be answered until we go out
What,
to market.
Mark?
Yeah, but it's too late.
Yeah, because you've already bonded a certain amount. If it goes to market, you get the premium. I don't, you've already committed that bond.
Okay, okay. No, these questions are just more all-weather questions. These are how can you provision a bond to allow for prepayment? I mean, that doesn't have to do with, that just has to do with, like, do those exist in the marketplace, right? That doesn't have to do specifically with our dollar amount, yeah.
They do, they just cost more.
But are you saying September would be? Were you saying September would be?
Yes,
Okay.
it'll be closer once we know where we're going.
Any other questions on miscellaneous income? Whatever you'd like to call it, you're free to call it whatever you like.
It had left off on me, so I had the question about municipal revenue sharing. I don't know if these guys have any questions.
You guys good? Cool. All right, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, signal by raising your hand.
Oh, of these numbers?
Yep. Opposed?
I'm not opposed, I just, I mean, all we're doing here is figuring out which numbers we're going to use tonight. I mean, these aren't official numbers in any way, right?
They're
Well,
estimates.
No, but I'm saying the only number that we're going to do tonight that means anything, other than the, dog park, I mean, yes, we should all agree on whatever numbers we're going to use tonight. And I agree that we should use this number, although maybe we'll come back to one of them later and decide to change it. But the only one I think we need to vote on is, what's the mill rate?
And Ed, so even though in the budget book, right, there's Board of Finance number, it's in all the revenue items, like miscellaneous income, we could say, instead of 1.2, we want it to be 1.21. I'm making something up, right?
Sure.
Wouldn't we have to vote on that?
I don't think so, because it
Okay.
doesn't mean anything.
Okay, we made a motion, it was seconded, we took it up, there was a vote, and we're still, but, so, if we wanna mess with the mill rate and stuff later, you're welcome to. I just wanna get on the same page that we're all using the same numbers to be able to make the sausage later. So, I'll ask for a revote. All those in favor, signal by raising your hand. Opposed? Abstention? Mr. Maley abstains. All right, can I have a motion for discussion and decision on approval of the collection factor for property taxes?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by the vice chair, second Mr. DeProto. So we're currently at 98.85%. Basically what we're doing is we're taking the total tax of 54,288,879 in row 77 there, and we're grossing it up by 1.15%. And then that being the buffer that we would need in order to make sure that if there is some delinquency or lateness in the taxes, that we are still staying on track. We bumped that up from 98.75, I believe it was it 3 years ago? Something like that. This obviously goes into the final number of the mill rate because we gotta know how much we wanna gross it up by. So does anyone have any real discussion or issue with keeping the collection factor the same? I believe in my discussions with Brian and the finance office that, there doesn't seem to be any real major need to be tweaking with that too much. And with what the future may hold, coming down the pike for the next fiscal year, don't know if adjusting that, it would be one direction or the other would be a good plan. I think that's a healthy figure. But obviously, we'll take any discussion on if there's a need to change it. Seeing none, all those in
Sorry, John. I wasn't sure if anyone was thinking or no. I thought of staring and.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at this page, and obviously there is there's this number on the page that says total tax, which we just sort of skipped over. And I assume that is related to some mill rate. And I'm just wondering, what are we?
the total tax, you're looking at the 54.288?
I'm sorry, yes.
Okay. So what that is that is the formula where we take our total expenses that we put forth up top of the 66, right?
Yep.
To run the town. We're then taking out basically all of the miscellaneous revenue
Right.
that we just did, and then along with taking into account the CNR items, being pulled out of fund balance, then also taking into account the elderly program to get us to a total tax of 54,288. So that is what we would need to go to town with.
Well, that wouldn't be the number we need to go to the town with, right? Wouldn't the number we need to go to the town with,
Before the factor.
no, it would be after the fact.
Right, the to town is after the factor. That number I gave you is before the factor.
Oh, okay.
Correct.
All right, so the actual number that we're shooting for is the 54, 820, 480.
54, 920, 464.
You're right, that one. So that's,
That is what would be applied against the grand list.
okay, so that must assume a mill rate. Right?
What assumes a mill rate? That would be the number we divide
That's-
into the grand list to get the mill rate, yes.
Yes. Okay. So what mill rate does that come to?
28.71.
Just below it. If you go below the current brand list, at the bottom.
Okay. Hang on just one second. I do have a larger version of this somewhere.
You find the current brand list.
I know, unfortunately, this printed on both sides, which I specifically thought it was not going to do. Do I? Here we are.
Okay.
Yeah,
Is this-
So,
right there.
yeah, I know. Here we are. Okay,
so right up here,
right here.
so here we gross it up. So if we use the post-collection factor figure here,
Yeah,
divide it into the grand list here, that is what our new mill rate would be before we were to apply anything out of fund balance.
okay. Okay.
Further discussion on the collection factor.
I would like to consider us changing that to 99%. I believe that the 1% is equal to a little over 500,000 or half a million, which I think is a pretty healthy buffer. I know it's a small change, but I'd like to put forth that we change it to 99%, and I realize it's the wisdom of the board here to decide whether to do that or not.
Just for everyone's informational purpose, 9885 grosses it up by about $630,000. If we go to 99, it grosses it up by $550,000. So that delta, 550 to 630, you're talking about $80,000. Just for everyone to know. So are you making a motion to amend it?
And I know before, is that what we do now? Would it be a motion to?
There's a
accept that
motion
part?
on
Okay,
the,
yep.
to,
Yes.
for 9885. So you're
I'll make
making
a
an
motion
amendment
to
to
amend it to
99.
99%.
Is there a second on the amendment?
Second.
Discussion on the amendment.
I was just curious, Steve, what's your thinking? Like, is because we can look back at the history of the tax collector's office and it's usually around 100% or higher?
Yeah, and again, I believe in looking back at the history, we've been consistently at a high enough level that I don't think going to 99 is gonna hurt it. And then secondly to that, I think at a 500,000 buffer, I think that's a reasonable thing, to do.
It's not 100%.
We've been averaging like 101.4%.
That includes,
Well,
But that's of the adjusted number,
Oh, yeah.
right?
that includes the prior year.
Yeah.
Which is up here, right?
Yeah.
The prior year is
No,
up here.
not,
right?
not of prior year, no.
Taxes other than
That's
current year,
less than,
775, is that being counted somewhere else, right? Don't you have to look at, don't you have to put those two numbers together to get to the 101? Isn't that what the 775, 500 is? Taxes other than current year?
Oh, yeah. What I'm saying is, when we look at our historical, how are we to budget, we only look at current year taxes, I believe.
No, when we look at 101, we're looking at all
All
collected
taxes.
taxes,
Prior
You can't get to it.
rental,
Oh, okay.
everything.
higher than 100,
Oh,
right? So what we need to look at is, what's the history on just current year taxes? And then take into account that we are dropping into probably a recession going into next year, so is that gonna affect collection rates, at least for the current year? They're gonna extend out collection over a longer period of time for
Just-
both commercial and residential businesses.
Just one mathematical thing, you can get more than 100, because once we tell the tax collector, okay, 100% collection would be X, we expect you to do 98.85. From then on, when he sends us back his numbers, he uses the 98.85 as 100. That's his goal.
Right.
So he could theoretically do 101.43% of current year's taxes.
And what we're looking at?
Because if everybody paid every dime, it would be 1.15%
No,
more.
I got that.
Yeah, so,
He can go to 101 against his goal.
right, but that's what I'm saying,
What are
when,
we looking at?
what
when
I'm
we look at
saying is-
historical
But then
numbers?
even with that, that would be below the gross up figure, right? That would still be below the, because we're giving him the buffer, but to get to the lower number.
He's collecting more taxes every year because he's collecting
Yeah.
prior year taxes along with current year
Yeah.
taxes.
no, but I'm saying even in the current,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm asking what the current year
Oh, okay.
percentages are. You know, why don't we look at that number and then we have a historical fact back as opposed to
I think we got
his
one.
numbers. You know, what do we normally, I mean, it could also be,
He gives this to us here, doesn't he? Don't we have one here?
that some of our other figures, are, yeah.
They do it, I think they do every year too.
It could be.
Well, while we're trying to,
Goes bigger than we thought,
the-
so we collect more.
yeah, listen, yeah, there could be a number of different factors. There, you know,
Right.
you know,
This is what you're
the other, listen, the other part of this thing too is that this is our kind of quote unquote margin of error, right?
Right.
We're looking at it strictly from a tax collection standpoint, right?
Mm-hmm.
What if all that 9.8 million of revenue we just talked about? What if something goes on there? Right? So we got the other side of the factor that we gotta look at, we gotta take into account too.
I gotta be honest with you.
Yeah,
We're talking about $60,000.
yes, we are.
That's it, right?
Right.
I mean,
Well, 80 grand,
we
whatever
have,
it
we
was,
have
yeah.
plenty of variability in the numbers that we're talking about here.
Yep.
We're gonna spend an hour talking about $60,000. I'll vote yes for that. That's fine. I don't think there's gonna make a bit of difference at the end of the day to whether we put it at 98.5 or we put it at 99. That's fine with me.
Yep.
I don't wanna spend an hour talking about $60,000 on this. We got way too much variability and so many of these other numbers. It's crazy. So why don't we just vote and let's go? Sorry.
If that wants to be the theme for the rest of the stuff, I'm with you, Dan.
For 60,000.
Oh, captain, my captain. All right, let's go. All right, so we got a motion to make an amendment to 99. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. 2, 3. Opposed?
So I have to be consistent.
3,
2
3.
years ago, I voted against it.
Okay, it's going to remain as is. All right, so now we have a motion to go back to 9885. Is there further discussion on the 9885? Mr. Malin?
Why does it remain as it is? It's a void at the moment, there's nothing.
There was a motion on the table to confirm the 9885. The vice chair made an amendment to the motion to 99. The amendment then failed.
So the
So now we're back to the 9885. Further discussion on the 9885. Seeing none, all those in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed? Abstention? 411. Good with that? Do I have that right, 411? Yes, okay, great. Okay, can I have a motion for discussion and decision on the amount to, for approval, the amount to be used from fund balance?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by the vice chair, seconded by Mr. DeProto. Okay. So now we're gonna go to the table down the bottom, okay? This starts at, and Sharon, we're gonna run through these, make sure we're matching, all right? Fund balance as of 6/30/2024 is $16,867,955. Okay? We then have expenditures that have eroded that number over the course of the year. Or numbers that are still, that have been in there, and we're not gonna get into these right now. North Road Extension, 600,000. Public Works Facility, 955,000. Willowbrook Road, 25,000. The DEI consultant for 6250. The Fire District Consultant of 25,000. The Drainage Design of 236,000. And then last year's stabilization figure of 2,038,571. We on the same page so far? All right.
So we used, just to be clear, we used none of that, then stabilization this current year.
This is us accounting for it.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
all I'm looking to do, just account for it.
Okay.
Because we gotta plug it somewhere. Then, as far as money to be pulled into here, We have the figure that came in over the last couple of weeks of $2,053,938. That is the correct number there. An overage in tax collections, that is an estimate from the tax collector of $200,000. We currently do not have a good grasp on what we might save in expenses in the current year, so that figure is blank, but as I said told you guys are welcome to analyze that and put in what you feel may be appropriate. And then the overage in miscellaneous income, and again, Sharon, to make sure we're on the same page there, that is now 1.3 million. Yes. Okay, so that should leave a net fund balance right now of 16,536,072. Okay. If we then go down, the new 60-day reserve needed, based upon the expenditures up above.
Can I stop you there?
Sure. So at some point I can get
Well,
through
because months ago, we talked about Gilead.
Okay.
And I said, what the hell is this? What's the number? How did this come to be? We got vague explanations. We asked for a written response as to what it is, where it came from, how we got to this number, why our insurance carrier had concerns, why we had to fight with them about how much they were gonna pay for this, that, or the other thing. Have we gotten any of the responses on that? The answer is no, right?
Yeah.
So the legislative body of the town council met with our town council, or town attorney, were briefed on it and then made the appropriate motion to resolve the issue accordingly. So we had privileged conversations with our council to discuss that. To whatever extent that you're able to review further financial information, I don't know what Sharon's handing out. Was that related to? Yeah, the release and settlement. We approved and had council approve this release and settlement, but the council received further information about the other issues related to insurance, which I've been advised that we should not discuss in public.
Are we ever gonna talk about this in public, or are we gonna spend another 10 years hiding it from the citizens?
Well, we had multiple public meetings about what to do and how much to appropriate. We had a town meeting, and then following that, we did vote publicly on the settlement agreement. Ultimately, however, those decisions that led to litigation occurred 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And there's only one council member who was on the council at the time that any of those decisions were made. So unfortunately, there's not really, much for us to discuss at this point. I mean, to your point about the question, the settlement agreement outlines the amount of money that were paid by the town, and I think is responsive to your question. Otherwise, I can't discuss anything further upon the advice of council.
It's not a surprise to anybody that I am incredibly upset that, first of all, we've had 10 years of essentially ignoring this and trying to cover it up and trying to keep it as quiet as possible. And every time anybody asks a question, the council has asked us not to talk about that, blah, 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 blah.
Well, Ed, you just asked questions about a alleged dispute with the insurance company and what happened with that. So you're asking for us to discuss in open session privileged conversations that happened between us and our council. And frankly, Mr. Chair, I don't think this is relevant for your agenda this evening.
The question is, why is this the amount of money and why is it here?
Because the council, after discussions with their council, entered into this agreement unanimously.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, we unanimously decided to take this suit. The town has certainly not covered itself in glory the last 10 years.
Yeah, respectfully, Mr. Maley, your question is about what was the amount of money.
And how did it get here?
And again, that seeks information which is privileged. However, to the extent available, the agreement that you just had should outline for you what the costs were that the council agreed to.
Are you suggesting we've signed some sort of confidentiality agreement with our insurer where we are not going to explain why they took that, whatever position it is they took?
I'm going to
What's
decline to answer that
confidential
question.
about it? I'm not
I'm
sure
going
if
to
I
decline
understand.
to answer that question. So, Mr. Chair, again, to the question, number one, is beyond the scope of what is on your agenda for the evening. I think the question's been asked and answered. You now have a copy of the agreement, which indicates how much I think was allocated.
I'm glad we're continuing to cover this up.
Okay. So that gets us down to a 60-day reserve of 10,703,516, okay? That figure is 60 days, taking the one-time CNR figure out, okay? We do not have to have the 60-day reserve in there for that. That leaves us with a 5.832, Sharon, available after that, okay? We then take the CNR projects that we did fund, and that matches what was up above, the 2,135,000, okay? Which then leaves us with 3,696,704. Yes, okay? So again, the only real variable or zero in there would be savings in the expenses in the current year. And Sharon, I'm assuming that you still don't really have any much guidance or update on what that may look like.
May and June are big expenditure months.
Yeah, okay. So, the motion on the table here is to amount to be used from fund balance. So, I know basically this is the heart of it here, because once we figure out or decide if we want to use fund balance for the mill rate, the next motion becomes very easy, because we will then have the mill rate calculated. Right now, and Sharon, let's match this up too, if we do not do anything and leave the fund balance figure as it is, the mill rate would then be 28.71. Okay, so that would be 2.04 above our current mill rate of 26.67. Okay, so I'll start it, and I'll put a figure, out there, and well, I guess the motion is to approve the amount. So I guess I worded that weird, huh? I probably should have started with a figure, huh? All right.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
I would like to make a motion, which I think procedurally probably should come before yours. Okay? I would like to make a motion that we remove the amount of $2,053,938 from the amount available in fund balance, and that we direct or request, let's see, how would we have to do this? We would request the town council and would direct the finance director, subject to the town council's approval, to set that money aside for potential uses for the mental health community in this town. I can explain why if you'd like.
Is that a formal motion?
That is a motion.
Okay, well, let's first see if there's a second.
I'll second.
Okay, did the mayor leave? Okay. All right, there's a second. Go ahead, Mr. Mealy.
Obviously, we were lucky that the larger number, much larger number, that we were subject to by the earlier court decision was reduced, not because there was any suggestion that the town had not acted as badly as possible, but that the courts decided that even if you acted as badly as possible in this situation, this was the maximum number we would impose on you as a penalty. So we got fortunate in that case. As I've said many, many, many times, we have done nothing to suggest to the mental health community that we're sorry or that we want to say something or do something that suggests that maybe we're sorry that we did this to you and brought shame upon the town. I don't actually have a plan for this at the moment, but I certainly think we should do something. And I think one way is we have this amount of money, which is money we have already set aside for this area, and maybe this is too much, maybe it's too little. But I would suggest that rather than just simply taking that money and throwing it back into the pool, we take a moment to think, maybe this is a time for us to actually say something, to say, I'm sorry to the mental health community. And that's the only way I can think to do it.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the amendment, signify by raising your hand. Opposed? Abstention? Dan, you were opposed?
Opposed.
Okay. All right, we're back to, we're back to figuring out the amount of fund balance. So, leaves 3.696 million. I will make a motion to start with in wanting to utilize 3 million out of the $3.696 million in there. If we were to put 3 million into the fund balance being used, and Sharon, correct me if I'm wrong, that would bring the mill rate to 27.12. We match there. That would represent a 0.45 actual mill rate change. Again, I want this to be a discussion. I'm not looking to have to keep voting on every individual number we want to kick out, but out of fund balance, 3 million. 3 million.
And Mr. Chair, would it have to be 3 million plus the 2.135852? Wouldn't it have to be 5 million?
I'm accounting that the capital project, the 2.1 million, is already up top within here. If we want to add the two together, I'm fine with that too. But the idea is meant to be fund balance for the CNR projects and the stabilization. So yes, if you do want to combine those numbers, yes, that would be the idea. Yes. Okay. So I'll start with the 3 million, and I'll let the discussion kind of go from there. Again, that brings the mill rate up about 0.45 from the current year. And that leaves us with about 700,000 of fund balance left. Again, not taking into account the possibility of expense savings, if there are any, not banking any, if there are some in the current year. As far as something that, oh, Mr. Mayor, you did come back. Okay. As far as something that, what's that?
Was there a question?
We had a motion, it went by the wayside, it's all right. I didn't know if you had left or were still here, that was all. And so, as far as what might be coming for the current year, and this might be good while you are still here, is, the items such as the possibility of needing to do the track. I know we're still waiting to hear about what may be coming on from that standpoint, from the state, along with any of the projects maybe coming down the pike. So obviously I want to make sure from a fund balance standpoint that we feel comfortable with what's in there. At the same time to, put the mill rate, at a spot that we feel good about. So I'll stop from there and I'll open it up to discussion.
Can I start just, I'm sorry, I don't want to bring up the whole Gilead thing. I just want to understand the piece of paper that was handed to me. The top bit says for consideration of 4.25 million. I mean, I thought we had earmarked 5 million aside and we had settled on a number less. Did we end up settling for 4.25 million? Or I don't know how to interpret that
Yeah.
number.
We didn't, but
That was not the town's piece, no.
Oh, okay, thank you.
If no one else, fine, yeah. I was thinking, and again, I know we don't want to bounce the numbers, but instead of 3 million, using 2.3, only to have, and it's not the exact number, we can debate, just more of a bigger buffer in the fund balance, was just my thought, knowing what's coming down the pike. So I'd be more of the type to want to like use a little less of the fund balance. And 2.3 is what the number I was thinking. Again, I don't want to get into like 2.305. It's just a number less than 3 million.
Okay. 2.3 would then generate a mill rate of 27.49. That would be an increase of 0.82. Just for discussion purposes. What's up, Tony?
Nothing.
Oh, okay. I thought there was something for us. Just for discussion purposes. So that 700,000 reduction there would up the mill rate. Steve, does your numbers jive with that? So 0.82?
Yes.
Okay. Further discussion. And again, we'll once I kind of feel like there's some sort of consensus, we'll then try to take a vote on the fund balance to use.
John, he proposed 2.3.
2.3, yeah. But there's no motion on the table for, I'm just kicking around to see what other people are feeling from a number standpoint. That would leave about 1.4.
Leaves what, outside of the 60-day reserve?
The 3 million?
700,000.
You use 3 million outside of the 60-day reserve, 700,000.
Yeah.
Is,
That would be, again, before any potential expense savings in the current year.
correct.
Right. And if we go with the 2.3, as the vice chair might have put out, it would be 1.4. We're good? Further discussion?
I
Okay.
mean, just for the
Yeah,
discussion's
good.
sake, I'm
Yeah, good.
probably a little bit, maybe more inclined to, use a little less fund balance, just in light of, some of the expense unknowns this year. Also, trying to anticipate what that mill rate will be with the CMS borrowing, so, just personal thing. I think last year we increased the mill rate by 25 points. That was, a modest step. I think it was.
25?
I think it was 0.25, yeah, I think, yeah. No?
What did we do last year?
I thought it was 2642.
It was 2667.
Yeah,
Was it 2642 the year before?
I think so.
Was it?
I think we had maybe thought about going bigger, actually, like 0.8, and then ultimately.
No, the 2667 sounds right.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's here, but I
thought for some
think,
reason it was
yeah.
higher than a quarter.
But, I mean.
Sharon's gonna grab it.
Yeah, but,
Was it last year that we had both the revaluation as well as the,
That was the year before that.
that was a year
Yeah,
before
it was the year
that, yeah.
before,
Because
yeah.
we were at 33.
Right, yeah, that's right.
And then,
It dropped, but taxes still went up.
yeah.
Taxes still went up.
Actually, why does the expiring mill rate, the expiring mill rate is,
2667,
2667.
because it was 2642.
yeah, I thought
So it was 42. So it was 25? Okay. All right,
or
listen, my memory.
2641,
Yeah,
yeah.
my memory was just bad.
No. A lot of numbers.
Okay.
That's all.
I guess maybe I'll try to split the baby here. Yeah.
I just wanna say one thing.
Yeah.
It is up to the Board of Finance. I have an S&P rating this year.
Yep. Okay.
And they frown upon using fund balance to stabilize the mill rate, so I just want you all to keep that in mind.
Is that before or after we're gonna go ask for a lot of money? Serious question.
I have to do the S&P rating before I bond.
Cool. Okay.
And you know it's 2.3 equates to in a mill.
So if it was 3 million, it would be what was it, 0.4, hold on, 0.45.
Right.
If we did 2.3, it's 0.82. If we did, just for discussion purposes, 2.6, it'd be 2/3. 0.66. I mean, Sharon, listen, we're gonna be, there's gonna be something coming. I don't think this board is gonna just hang on to all the fund balance.
I'm just putting it out there, just so you.
Yeah, I just,
I'm not,
is it a severity thing, or if you just do it by $1, they, get on you? Like, is it a severity thing? Like, if we do $1 million, it means something. If it's 3 million, it means something more. Is it just you do it and it's a practice? It's bad. Like what?
I've never done an S&P rating, to be honest with you, it's just whatever's told by the bond advisor,
Yeah.
and in general,
Yep.
do you know that?
Okay. So those are the kind of figures. Does anyone else want to know what if an amount is used, what the mill rate would look like? They comfortable with kind of the figures I tossed out here? 3 million, 2.6, 2.3.
I mean, I'm also more of like, it's easier to remember round numbers, so if we're going to 27.49 mils, why don't we just go to 27.5 mils?
You want 27.5?
That's all, but we don't have to do the math, if it's just more directionally, if, where we wanna see the mill rate.
Oh boy, that's one too many zeros. 2744. Yeah, 26. Yeah, it's 2.29 or something. Yeah, it'd be 2.29 out of fund balance. That gets you to 27.5. That would be a 0.83 change.
Just remember where we're gonna be next year or thereabouts.
Yeah, and again, and I don't wanna get into a big national politics discussion, but I don't know, I'm also trying to look out what is possibly coming down the pike over the next 12 months. Both from what we should have as a town for resources, but also thinking about our taxpayers and our businesses and our constituents. So, again, just for a reference standpoint, if we go to the 27.5 that's been kicked around, on a house assessed at $348,000, the yearly tax increase is $288. So, again, just more to kick around. Good, Jim.
I was just gonna ask, when's the next reassessment or revaluation?
It's every 5 years.
That's every 5 years.
So when was
And we
that?
did it 2 years ago?
So I
I think it's
think
27.
Okay, all right, cool.
27 might be the year.
Thank you.
I'll kick it off and see if I can't get,
It's gonna be a school impact that's gonna be the next major hurdle.
yeah. Again, I'll try to split the bit here. If we use 2.6, it's 27 1/3. It's 0.66. It leaves us with 1.1 million. And on that assessed home value, $231.
What are you using, 2.6?
2.6. So, I'll make a motion, to use $2.6 million. Well, there's a motion on the table, isn't there? I'll amend the motion to, utilize 2.6 million out of fund, well, I'm gonna use Steve's method. Utilize $4,735,852, that is the combination of stabilization and the CNR projects, okay? Out of fund balance, for, the next fiscal year. I'll make that amendment.
So moved?
Okay, moved by the vice chair,
Second.
second by Mr. DeProto. Discussion.
That you said results in a 27.33 mill rate?
27.30. Do you have that math too?
Same, yeah.
Okay, good.
I'll just say I started with the 2.3 in addition. I'm good with the 2.6 number, so, for me anyways.
And John, you said that's a $230 increase
So,
annual?
so just again, and it's a random, I'll throw in whatever assessed value you want, but an assessed value of
for the
348,
average house,
it's
yeah.
$231.
Versus the 709 that we had.
Oh, when it was nothing?
When
Yeah.
it was nothing, yeah.
Yeah. If it was like a 2 mil
Right.
deal, yeah. Whatever that figure was. I'd have to undo a lot of stuff to do
But
it.
again, when you're saying assessed value of 348, that's a home with a market value of $500,000.
Yeah, whatever I put in that, again, I'll put in whatever number you guys want.
No, I'm making sure we use the right, the terms,
Yeah.
the
I
terms
mean,
right,
you know,
yeah.
I'll throw in 300,000 if you want.
No, it's just the terms, yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever,
Make sure we
whatever
say-
assessed value you put in,
Uh,
you get about.
And again, on a
You're
$300,000,
taking 2/3 of the increase out, and you're gonna cover 2/3 of the increase with
Yeah.
fund balance, and you're gonna allow 1/3 of the increase flow back to the taxpayer.
$300,000 assessed value is $200.
Think about it, yeah.
$200. Okay. So, there is a motion, discussion. Oh, crud. Shoot, what number did I say?
26.
2.6?
2.6, yeah.
Hold on, my spreadsheet got screwy.
I think that's a good.
Okay,
Dan, I think that's a good way
2733.
to, well,
So again, that
1/3
was
flows through.
4,735,852. Okay. Further, so, yeah, so further discussion on that. What's that?
I said no one likes my nice even numbers. Also,
Well, we're going 27 and a third. I mean,
Naked Gun, 27 and a third.
okay, seeing no discussion, all those in favor?
Just do a restatement of it.
Yeah, sure.
Kinda lost track of it.
So, it is to use $4,735,852 out of fund balance. 2.6 of it is for mill rate stabilization. $2,135,852 is for the CNR projects.
That leaves you in a position where nobody would be.
27.33. It is an increase of 0.66, so 2/3 of a mil. Any further? Yep. Then that leaves 1.1 in fund balance before expenses the current year. Any further discussion?
1.1 in excess of the 60.
Yes. Yes. Right, Sharon? Hopefully your numbers, Matt, yours.
My spreadsheet matches yours, I've been doing mine.
Good. Matt? As many checks and balances as we can get. All right, all those in favor then signify by raising your hand. Opposed? Abstention? 5 to 1? Yes? 5 to 1. Okay. All right. Can I have a motion to approve to set the mill rate at 27.33 for fiscal year 2026?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by the Vice Chair, second Mr. DeProto. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed? 5 to 1. Chairman's comments. Thank you, everybody, for all your work. It's never an easy process, but really appreciate it. And, a little before 10 o'clock, we'll take it. Vice Chair, please.
No, again, I think as we get into this coming year, we're gonna have new things with the bonding, we got other projects. If we keep improving our long-term capital planning process, we'll have better insight next year, hopefully, to be thinking about how to use our money, whatever money we do have at that point in time. So I think that'll be a good thing, as well. So thank you for all your work.
Good and welfare? Okay. 10 o'clock. Adjourn. Thank you, everybody.
Tell Chrissy, I said 10.